I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take the roll.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here.
Morissette.
Here.
Wakefield. Here. Knutson. Here. Kennedy.
Here.
Brooke.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
All right, before comments from citizens present, I would like to, for those of you who weren't at the Finance Committee or tuning in, would like to introduce our new City Administrator, Brent Mahalik. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and we've looked forward to this for a while, and it's good to have you here, and we look forward to a great relationship and look forward to a great job that you will be doing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yep. And also, I want to recognize Mike Johnson for the unbelievable work he's done. Just a yeoman's job in taking over, filling the void for the administrator while we were selecting a new one and then waiting for Brent to come on board. He has just been an immeasurable help to me, and I'm sure to all the city staff here and the rest of the council, in supporting all of us and taking on a number of different hats. I know it was very stressful, or at least I would have thought it'd be stressful. And I cannot thank you enough for the work that you did the past few months, Mike. I really, really appreciate it, and I know I speak for everybody here that would agree with that. So thank you too.
Yeah.
All right, comments from citizens present. This is your opportunity to speak to any issue that would affect the city that is not on the agenda tonight. If you do have a comment, please come to the podium, identify yourself, give your address. Try to keep your comments brief. Try not to repeat other people's comments. So, does anybody have a comment? Any comment? Any comment? Any comment? Hearing none, close that portion of the agenda. Discussion and possible action on consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes from the May 20, 2024 regular council meeting. Approve the claims in the amount of $686,909.79. Approve training for instructors. Approve rejecting the bid for the Toll Bridge Stairs Improvement Project.
Could you pull that, please? Thank you.
Approve the downtown parking lot lighting feasibility study. Approve change order number 1 for the City Hall ramp reconstruction project in the amount of $17,696.23. Approve the architectural and engineering services proposal from OPN Architects for the police department facility. And approve interim finance department support.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item D. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield? Yes. Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
All right, item D, approve, reject the bid for the Toll Bridge Stairs Improvement Project.
Well, thank you. I just thought it would, the public should hear a little discussion on this, especially it's been a challenge. Last year, we didn't get a bid, if I'm not we
got
bids
one bid.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So obviously, it is turning out to be more expensive than we hoped, and if I'm not mistaken, could you clarify the fund? It's the mooring
Yep.
fees, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So every year, obviously, we collect revenue from the moorers. A portion of that goes into the 280 account. We have $114,000 and some change in that account right now, which isn't sufficient amount of funds to do the total project. Now, I did bring up the possibility of maybe paring it down. The mooring group that's kind of spearheading this did not express interest in doing that. They kind of want to do it
Could
all.
you say that one more time? You proposed doing what? I'm
I
sorry.
propose kind of paring it down, maybe doing
Right.
one or two sets, right? The group that's kind of spearheading this did not express kind of interest in doing that. They kind of do it all or nothing. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So obviously the bid came in a lot higher than what was anticipated, and just due to insufficient funds, just rejecting it at this time.
So, I'm sorry.
No, that's fair. Thank you. I know you're in close contact
Yeah.
with them.
Yep.
And they've had input on the design.
Yep.
And so on, but really, they feel all or nothing.
Yeah.
That is disappointing and surprising to me.
Yeah.
But we want them to be safe. It's imperative that they're well-built and structurally.
And it might be, we're trying to take into account what their desires are, but as a city, it's our project, right? The funds are in our account. We can, if it's something that we feel strongly about getting a couple in the future, we can rebid it as, doing 3 sets and having that number come in at budget and just do that and see how they're used. And if they're used, we can do more. So,
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that. And thank you. I mean, I know many of the people that use those mooring balls for their sailboats are local residents, but many are from out of town and come and participate and pay their fee that goes into a reserved fund. And so this money was determined to be spent on an identified need. So it is unfortunate that it's so expensive.
Yeah.
It's a tough, very special part of Hudson, the toll bridge, but making it safe, making that accessibility is hard. So, excuse me,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Oh, no, not at all. I just wanted to clarify when you say the people spearheading it, you're talking about the Moores Association group.
right.
Anybody else? We have a motion?
So out of courtesy to the contractor who made the bid,
Yes.
we need to decline
Move
it.
to reject it, yes.
Yes, okay, I move to reject this bid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reject. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, Mike. Item A under new business was resolved, so we're pulling that from the agenda. Item B, liquor license renewal fire inspections. Chief?
Good evening, Council,
You're
Mayor.
trying to confuse us.
Yeah.
You're not asking for any money tonight.
That was my intent tonight. So this is basically for informational purposes only to start, being there is still a period of time where these establishments can become compliant. But we kind of went through this last year, and when I became fire chief, I had talked to the clerk about making the fire inspections part of the requirement for the liquor license holders in the city. And the reason we did that, or I approached it that way, is because there's some enforcement power behind it then, right? It holds them accountable. These are places of high attendance, limited egress, right? And they're in areas of the city that if an incident did happen, it'd be a great liability, and us as a city would be held liable in the end for not holding them accountable. So we kind of went through it last year in the fact that it was kind of new that they had to have a successful fire inspection to obtain their liquor license, and we granted a grace period because of that. And hoping this year it was going to go a little smoother, it has not. So unfortunately, 19 of the 40, actually it's 18, I actually have one tomorrow, have not reached out to schedule their fire inspections as part of their liquor license renewal. The big thing is we're going to try to get them done or try to make them compliant before the next council meeting. Looking at 2 weeks, and that's kind of going to be tough depending if there's deficiencies or not. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention as a council, so you know where we're at and there's no surprises come the next council meeting on why somebody may or may not be getting a liquor license renewed or approved. So
Drew, if I may add, I've had a few comments sent my way in regards to this. I'm for it. I understand the liability.
What's that, Randy?
I've had comments come in about this and the process of how it's going, and folks are not happy. I'm really a part of, they have to take responsibility for what is required of them.
right.
But, we've identified the problem. So how do we come up with a solution to get these 18 people back in compliance besides just rushing now within 2 weeks? What do we need to do as a city or a department? And do it with some customer service aptitude.
I understand.
That's, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
Chief, I don't want to put you on the spot on that one. I mean, that's our call. What we want to do. I mean, we could ask for a recommendation, but I don't know that we want to put the chief on the spot. That's something that this council had determined a year ago, our course of action.
Can I interject something? Just a reminder, they've had notification
Oh,
of
sure.
this since March.
Sure.
So it's not just these last 2 weeks either.
I think you're reading my question wrong, unless, because I'm just asking him, what do we need to do more? Oh,
Well, I don't think, as a city, we need to do any more than what we're doing. They're getting a notice, they know every year they have to reapply or, go for approval for a liquor license. It's right in their paperwork, it says they have to call and schedule a fire inspection. I don't have the time to make phone calls, I don't have the time, the clerks don't have time, I don't have personnel to do that, to chase people around for something that's their responsibility, right? And I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but 20 places were phenomenal and took care of it, no questions asked. We instituted the same policy in the village and in the town. Everybody in the town was compliant, all but one place, and I'm waiting to do a follow-up inspection. The village was compliant. Granted, they have much less establishments. Point being, this was the very first year we instituted it in those 2 municipalities, and we had 100% compliance.
so let me ask, and maybe you could help. Is the notice going to the agent alone or the ownership as well?
Both.
So, okay, so that's,
Because the agent, we don't always know if the agent stays the same every year, so
Right.
what we have on file is usually both, and that's what get notified. And that is a courtesy letter to them as well.
because what it comes down to is we're all gonna get the calls on it, and if we aren't doing our job correctly, like these notices and stuff, then it's on them, and we don't need to take the grief. If-
Right, and I just don't know how much more we can really do.
Okay,
Because a lot of municipalities don't even send them a reminder letter, because it's their privilege to have this license.
Right.
And it's their due diligence, so a lot of communities don't even send them a letter like saying, hey, it's renewal time. It's always a discussion this time of year.
a lot of
with
these
every-
licenses have been so long into one establishment. that
Correct.
When we established this, only the newer people probably do it, right, or vice versa?
This
This varies.
It varies, yeah, it's great cross-section. I will say that what we hold them to as for a standard is no different than if we inspected a strip mall, a school, right? It's national fire code, it's state statute, they're all held to the same level of inspection. There's nothing different about these. We're just tying the liquor license to a successful inspection, so we have some weight behind it to make them be compliant, right? It's no different
Right.
than anything else.
Safety.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I have a question. The establishments that have not done the safety inspection, have they turned in their applications yet?
Yes, piecemeal though, I mean, it's not a clean, smooth process.
But they're all in.
We did, yes, because we have, and if we didn't, that's the next item on the agenda, because we have publication dates, which, again, that all went out in March. So yes, we do have them, but
Okay.
it was follow-up.
Can you send a letter to them saying that their application is incomplete? Because they don't have a fire inspection?
They're not getting approved if it's not done.
Right.
Well,
But we're sending them, we're emailing or calling them saying, hey, we don't have your paperwork by the deadline.
Oh, so you are,
I mean, because we have
You
to
are
do
sending that
background checks, I
information,
mean,
yeah.
there's a whole lot that goes into it, so we're already contacting them, and
Okay.
the letter of, yeah, and you have to call and set up your fire inspection.
So they're
I don't
all
know
aware
how
of this?
much more my staff and ourselves can do.
no, so they're all aware of this?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, all right, so if they can't take the responsibility to do this, do we want them to have the responsibility of a liquor license?
How long would the liquor license be?
just one second. And I've been wanting to ask some questions here. I got a few questions. So, everybody was in compliance last year, is that right?
After the extension,
After we gave the
correct.
extension.
Yep.
And what was, we voted on the extension here last
Through
year.
September, right?
So,
Yeah.
we gave them until
End of September.
September.
So they had to have.
Is that what we gave them, or is that how long it took?
No, that's what we gave them.
Okay.
That was, I just picked, so what it was is we gave them till the end of August to have the initial completed. If there was a deficiency, they had to then in September to correct the deficiency.
Right.
So we gave them an extra 3 months, basically.
Yeah,
to
because the
become
liquor
compliant.
license renews July 1st.
Yeah. Okay, so, and we had said, what was the remedy? If they weren't in compliance after the 90 days, what did the council decide we were going to do? Do you remember, Mike or Drew? Were we just gonna withhold the license?
Well, it's,
I believe last year, and everybody became compliant, so I guess it never became an issue.
But when we gave them the extension, we must have put a condition on that.
well, it's in our, it's page 64 of 107. If this is
This is-
directly from the minutes.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So we voted, gave us a similar report, proposed that the deadline for compliance inspections could be extended for that renewal season to the beginning of August, and any deficiencies corrected by the end of September. And that next year, this is evidently voted on this, next year if applicants have not complied with the deadlines given to them, their liquor licenses will not be approved until in compliance. So.
Was that
and-
unanimous?
Well, Joyce made the motion, Sarah seconded, and it was unanimously approved.
So,
Yep,
and
so that's
we-
from last year's minutes.
So, and the minutes say that if they were not compliant by July 1st, that they would not get their liquor license?
Or
It did say that if they did not comply with the deadlines, their liquor license would not be approved until in
All
compliance.
right, so that was an action that this council took.
So I've got one more question. So then, at our next meeting, we will approve the licenses that have been applied for that are complete. So if they do not have their application complete, then they'll have to wait until the first meeting in July, or we'll have to have a special meeting in order to approve their liquor licenses. Is that correct?
It's the
on
next,
here right now.
it's on the next, so here was the process, and I talked with Mike with this too. So we have to publish 15 days prior to them getting issued a license in the newspaper and whatnot. So these are, the next item on the agenda is all the applications that we received in office of our establishments. So what there's a contingency of approval, any debt owed to the city, a completed fire inspection, all of that has to be met before that liquor license will be physically issued to them.
Okay, so today we are going to approve all of these with that contingency is what
So,
you're
and
asking?
yeah, that's the motion.
Okay.
So it's just because meeting that 15-day, because then if we do it next meeting, we're cramming to get them their license before July 1st.
Okay, so, you done, Joyce? Then the question is, are we ready to suspend their license until they come into compliance? Because the chief doesn't have a lot of time to get these done. Word will get out tonight to all these establishments that they need to be in compliance. Otherwise, as of July 1st, if they're not, their license would be in suspense. And so now the onus is back on the chief to make sure that when all these phone calls come into him, that he's gonna be able to make time to get over there before July 1st.
Yeah, and technically, their licenses won't be suspended. They expire at the end of June. They won't have a license
Well,
on
I-
July 1.
Yeah, so
What I heard was a
midnight of July
contingency
30th, they
here.
have to be shut down.
What I heard is a contingency here. It sounded like a motion might have a contingency that,
Well, that's what, so at least as I understand it, the next item will be to approve all of the applicants with the contingencies that they have to meet the requirement. But if they don't meet the requirement by the end of the day on the 30th of June, then they won't have a liquor license issued as of July 1st.
okay, so, is the council willing to do that?
Well,
I
quick
had-
question, if you got 19 calls tomorrow morning, I mean, could you pull it all off? Or do we?
It's
or does
not, it can be done. The problem is gonna be if somebody's deficient in an area and they have to have time to be able to correct the deficiency.
Okay.
Right, so it could be anywhere, like, some of the common things that we see is, their Ansel systems for their kitchens are outdated for service. The hood cleanings have to be cleaned twice a year, for grease, and that's, fire extinguishers are out of date, blocked egresses. I mean, there's a multitude of things, and depending on what they're deficient in, it could take time for them to become compliant. So,
But just like last year, I mean, this won't be their first notification that stuff has to be done by a certain date.
right.
And
right.
they know that they got 90 days last year.
Right.
And the other thing too, and I try to work with them in the fact that I understand that it's tough to get companies to come in and clean your hoods and service your systems. There's just isn't a lot of service companies out there. If they can prove or provide me proof of a contract that was signed that says X company is coming, then I approve it because it's on them at that point. They've given me proof that somebody's gonna come and take care of it. I take that as their word and then I move with it. So I really try to help them out as much as I can, but depending on what the issue is, it could take more than 30 days to correct. It's hard to say.
Sure. But, but those deficiencies aren't necessarily, like the spirit of that idea is that it's always safe, or they're always clean, or whatever. It's not just down to the deadline when it comes time to get a new license. So
Correct.
if they have deficiencies 6 months ago, that should be on their radar, not
Right.
just on the deadline.
Right.
So and again, like you said, I don't want to put you on the spot. Is there any room for it, in the next 2 weeks, either you're in there inspecting them, passing them, or at least there's an arranged time that you're gonna go see them? I mean, again, if you can't pull off 19 of them, can we approve them, but give you the time you need? I don't want to necessarily give them a lot more time to just kick the can down the road, but I also want you to have the right time to do
I don't
it.
see an issue with trying to get 19 of them completed. That's
Okay.
The initials. That should not be an issue. It's the backside, as if there's a deficiency, if they can become compliant in that timeline.
And then you'd have to get back there
Yeah.
to
Well,
sign off
and
on
actually,
it.
it's easier than that. And the fact is, all they have to do is take pictures of the corrected deficiencies and email me, and I can close out the reports.
Okay.
I mean, this is a very easy, simple process that doesn't take a lot of time and effort on people's part. It's just not getting done.
Right.
This is a serious issue. I mean, this is a really serious issue. And I don't think our license holders are taking this as seriously as they should. But they've got one requirement to get their license renewed, one. And that's it. And that's to ensure the safety of their business, of their building, and the buildings around them. And this is a liability that comes back to the city if one of these places burns down and takes 2 or 3, 4 buildings with it. And people say, well, wait a minute, you approved their liquor license and hadn't even had a fire inspection? Now, this is serious stuff.
Yeah. And I will echo what the mayor is saying. If a fire happens and there's an insurance claim filed, I will guarantee you the insurance company will be coming and asking me for our inspection records.
Yeah.
That will happen.
And this is the same every year. It's not like the date moves around.
Correct.
So even before they got the letter in March, they knew this was the
Correct.
date.
Mhm.
And
Correct.
they knew the obligations of getting that, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
What do you want to do?
I think we honestly need to go back to the original question. Do we really want to shut these people down?
Or do they want to allow themselves to be shut down by not doing this?
And do they mind putting the
People at risk?
city in jeopardy?
And even bigger than that, the patrons and their employees
Right.
at risk,
Yeah.
And neighboring businesses.
and neighboring businesses. But
Yeah, I'm not inclined to do a big extension like we did last year. That was very generous.
I'm not included.
And it, if people are just rotating through and thinking they're going to get the same treatment again, it just keeps this issue on our city clerk's desk and our fire chief's desk. We're got to get this paperwork done and processed. And our staff has plenty to do as it is, plenty of other fire inspections. So I do think if we hold as tightly as we can. I agree, Randy, I don't want to see someone shut down. I certainly don't want to. And I'm sure you'll have to cancel your vacation. No, I'm teasing. Vacations in June for the fire inspectors. I'm teasing. I don't know if he's having
Maybe
a
Ellis can
vacation
do it.
or not. That was off the cuff. I apologize, Drew. Right, I mean, it's going to put a little extra workload and for our clerk to get all this done. So I don't know what we can agree on tonight to put some onus back on those business owners. What kind of leeway we want to offer or encouragement. But I don't want to see a major extension like we did last year.
And from a permitting perspective, it's a privilege, not a right. We know that. You have a priority of health and safety. These inspections have to get done. I don't know, Drew, typically over how many months you do them, if the preference would be, April 1 through the end of June or whatnot, but presumably they don't want to be doing them in the last 2 weeks each year anyway, so training permittees, permit holders to do them over the course of a couple of months is probably the right thing to do. We need to train them, right, not to wait until the last minute. You know, at the same time, having 18 restaurateurs, you know, in here making calls to you guys because on July 1st or on the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th, they're not gonna have their liquor license because they waited until the last minute. You know, that becomes a really challenging public scenario as well that ultimately probably needs to be managed. So I just, you know, I suggest you probably think about this in terms of how do we continue to train permit holders, you know, make it clear that they need to be in contact with the chief and get their inspections done, and if there's follow-up, if there are remedies that need to be taken, you know, perhaps there's a short period of time following the 1st of July where evidence is to be provided that they're actually making progress. But, you know, not the long extension that was provided last time, but something that kind of strikes a balance and requires those inspections to be completed and then perhaps remedies to be completed during some limited amount of time after July 1st.
Just one other quick point. When I had the liquor license, it was a privilege. When I got that mail, that's the first thing I took care of. Yeah, just because you know that was your livelihood. It was a privilege. But that kind of circling back to my original question is, what is there something more we can do? Again, I get it, self-responsibility, personal responsibility, but at the same time, maybe we have another mandatory meeting when every liquor license holder comes in and we say, you need to have this done. It would take no more than 30 days to cure the summit to come in and do a fire inspection, including the hoods. Okay, that's the only wiggle room we would
I
get.
believe River Falls does that
They
every
do,
year.
they do, and they get a lot of flack for it.
Well, it's either that or they don't
I
have a
know.
license and we don't have to do
I
this
can't tell
exercise.
you how much time we spend reaching out to them because their applications aren't complete, their checks aren't the right amount. The call sending them a letter, they want this, that's all, we've got it all digital now for them, so it's easier. We have tried. I am exhausted of ideas of what more versus doing it for them at this point. I mean, Drew and I have talked about this for long periods of time of what more we can do. I wish there was more education on their behalf from the agencies, but there's just not. So it's on us, and that's not our only focus during the day either, but there is a lot of emails and phone calls back and forth for these applications. And it's starting in March through now. I mean, and that goes for the tobacco ones as well. There's a lot. And Drew's getting, I mean, yeah, he's got to go back and re-inspect, and our communication here is fine. It's just getting everything completed. And this year was new form, so it was hand-holding that, which, fine, we knew that was coming, but it's a lot. There's a lot of time spent on this.
So Nick, were you saying that they would need to have the inspection done by the July 1st deadline?
In that letter, it states, call and have your appointment by this date, for the same as when the pamphlets are due.
Yeah, May 15th.
But then if there was, like you said, additional, we could grant another,
Well, you have a couple of different options. You could take a hard line and you could say that anybody that doesn't have their inspection completed by the required date doesn't get their license into their new license until they have their inspection completed and all actions taken care of, right? I mean, that's what our process would say, and that's what your action was last year as a council.
but if they have it done by the 1st, and there needs to be some,
Some follow-up if there are
Follow-up.
deficiencies, yeah.
once that follow-up was done, they would,
That's an option that you would have to consider, and I think it's probably a reasonable compromise so that they get their inspection done, so that the fire department knows exactly what's going on with each one of these establishments. Hopefully, there aren't too many that need to do additional follow-up, but I suspect there are usually some that have something to do.
Usually, and in fact, the ones this year that were deficient last year, everything was in compliance. I mean, they kind of know the rhythm now, so there wasn't too many violations this year.
Yeah. Yeah, so if remediation is done of those deficiencies by some pretty short deadline, whatever you decide that to be, whether that's the middle of July or the end of July or whatever you feel to be reasonable, that might strike a bit of a balance in just trying to allow the fire department to get the inspections done, but have an initial inspection completed of all these establishments by the date that we've set.
Drew, of the deficiencies you see, I know you can't be overgeneral, but I mean, is it something that could be finished in 2 weeks most of the time?
Most of the time it is, correct. Usually within a day or two, they can have it fixed.
So
The
we
biggest
could-
one is the hoods and suppression systems, because there just isn't a lot of companies out there that do it, and they're all booked, right? Everybody's falling on the
Okay.
same timeline. Like I said, it goes back to, if you can show me that you have a contract signed with a vendor, I accept that.
Okay.
So we can't be the only municipality that is having this discussion right now.
We're not.
And
I
what,
see it day in and day out right now.
and what are these other communities doing?
Asking us what we're doing. Because they're in the same predicament.
And they're giving extensions, I presume.
Some aren't.
I'm going to make a motion. As I look at the issue sheet that we were provided, if I'm not mistaken, as I'm reading it, they were supposed to schedule it by May 15th.
Correct.
Okay, so I am going to move that those establishments who have not had a fire inspection yet need to have it scheduled by June 15th. And then the fire chief, they have another 10 days, because really, they're already out of compliance. They already did not follow the instructions that the clerk and the fire chief gave them.
Well, you're not gonna get a
18 is.
Schedule.
Oh, wait a second, we've got,
Get it
just one
scheduled,
second.
just like here's the wording here, they have like another 12 days to get it scheduled, and then it's up to the fire chief, when can they get the inspection done and make the corrections, but put some pressure on them to take action. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say to Randy, wanted to wait until the motion was out
Yeah.
and see if we get a
Okay.
second.
I have a question about your motion.
Yeah.
The 15th is a Saturday. Would you like to change that to the 14th?
Sure, thank you.
All right.
And so,
Drifting here.
and so the motion is that they have to have it scheduled by the 14th?
By June 14th,
So it has to be on Drew's schedule. It's for sometime after the 14th, but it has
But
to
at
be.
least they
But he has to have it,
have
they have to
heard
have
the-
it scheduled by
heard the
then.
urgent message, you need to get this scheduled, and, we
Do
just,
you want to give them a window by which they must have that? They can have the appointment, but they can say, well, let's do it in August. So you want to set a window?
Yes.
So,
what do you prefer? I mean, I don't want to overload your schedule. I know you have
No.
one other person that does inspections, is that correct?
Yeah,
There's 2
but
of you.
I'm doing these because we're doing over 1,200 inspections right now in the city, so there's a lot. So, July 15th, I think is reasonable, right?
July 15th, not
To have
June.
them done.
No, July 15th, June 14th to schedule, give them till July 15th to have it completed and successful completion. That means they have to be in compliance by July 15th.
Are there repercussions in your motion?
They won't have their license any longer.
It'll be in suspense, or?
Yeah, it'll be suspended.
Okay.
Would that be the appropriate term?
Yeah, so in that case, then a new license would be issued on July 1st.
That was my
But then if they have not completed their inspection and remedied any deficiencies, then after the 15th, their license would be suspended.
So is that more work because then you issue a license and then you pull the license?
Yeah.
A little bit, it puts a little work on the
Okay.
police
Well,
department.
it's just suspended, it's not,
I have one, and I'm
Please.
sorry, I know
Right,
we're,
it does get the police department involved.
I just have a quick question about procedure. Like you, as chief, you have permission to walk into establishment anytime and inspect or check on something.
Correct.
And again, I asked, when we first started talking about that, I said, I don't want to put too much work on you, but here I go. And Randy, you said, is there anything more that the city could do to meet them halfway or whatever? Can you just show up at these 19 and say, inspection time?
I can.
And, I mean, I know that's, but then we're not giving and pulling, and if they don't have it, and they don't pass, they wouldn't have passed in 2 weeks anyway.
So
it's
that's,
their responsibility to set this up.
I can, by state statute, I
Okay.
can enter a building at any reasonable hour and perform a fire inspection. Not a
Okay.
problem. The reason we require them to schedule is because a lot of these aren't open during the day, or the managers aren't always around. And this
Okay.
ensures that we can get in, and usually it's the manager or
Understood.
the owner that I can actually do the inspection with. So that's why I require them to schedule them. I can definitely show up and do it, but a lot of times staff doesn't necessarily know exactly who's supposed to get it, where it's supposed to go. I can say it's deficient, and they go, okay, and take the report, and nothing ever gets done, right?
yeah.
So
I guess I was just
it's-
looking for.
What's he gonna do when he goes in there on that unexpected? Is he gonna shut it down if it's not done, and then you get a call saying?
No,
"Mike, what the hell's
then
going on?"
our office won't issue that on July 1.
Well, you know you're gonna get called. We're all gonna get calls saying, what the hell's going on? And right, it's
No,
their
no, no.
fault.
And
At which
better
point
not
we
get
say,
that
you're
call."
calling the wrong person. You need to
Yeah.
set up an appointment.
Yeah, look at that.
He's gonna be the front line of that, and you wanna
Right.
put him in that position.
Yeah.
So I think the chief has taken that approach out of respect to that business owner.
I agree.
or
I'm
the
just
agent.
trying to come up with a
Right, just to
solution
say,
that-
I'd like to meet
I
with
like
you.
an
But
establishment
you're
as
right,
well.
it's
Yeah.
true. If there was a true concern, he
Yeah.
would be in there.
And the flip side is, if you schedule the appointment, you're gonna go around your establishment and make sure you're up to code before I show up. That's
Right.
the other benefit of being able to schedule it.
Absolutely.
So,
Because right now, our fire inspector, all the other fire inspections, just shows up.
Oh, okay.
That's how they're conducted.
I don't know where we are with the motion. Is
Count-
there-
I-
There has
So-
not been a second.
No,
I
there,
think
we don't have a second yet. Everybody's trying to understand what the motion is
Can I
or get it.
restate it and?
Sure,
take it?
yep.
All right, I move that our local establishments who have a liquor license and are applying for renewal must all schedule an inspection with the fire chief by June 14th, and that inspection should be completed and remedies done by July 15th. If all of their other paperwork is in order, the clerk can issue their license as of July 1st. But if they do not comply with this fire inspection component, it will be suspended July 15th.
Okay.
would you consider a friendly amendment?
Absolutely.
With changing that date to having it scheduled and everything by June 28th? That gives, so that's, they have to call and have it booked by the 14th, but the appointment actually done by the 28th. That doesn't make the
Yes.
city clerk have to suspend and
Like that.
redo all that.
Wait, I'm not sure I understand that.
In other words, you're worried that
changes July
the
15th.
license will be issued and then we have to claw it back right
Oh,
away.
I see, okay.
So booked by the 14th, completed by the 28th,
And what if there are deficiencies?
2-week window.
They will get a grace period, they'll get their license, but.
Then that would go in through the 15th of July, right? Given that extra 15
So-
days to become compliant.
What is the step? If we wait, if we issue the licenses tonight, what's the step? It's just one additional step, right, where you contact them and say your license is suspended.
Right, because I'm not waiting till the 28th to mail out licenses, because they won't have it by the 1st, because they have to have it posted in their establishment on July 1st.
So I don't know
saying
that it's all
renewed.
that much extra
Okay.
work to claw it back.
Okay.
But I've got a different
It
question.
would-
I'm sorry.
Well, taking it one step farther, if we have to suspend one, if, okay, we get to that 15th, they don't do it, it does then involve the police department going in there, because they have to remove their liquor.
Yeah, oh.
Those are-
Yes, they have to remove all their liquor.
Liquor license comes off the wall.
Everything, so all that liquor has got to be removed from their establishment.
Is that
Can't be in the
a
closet.
ride-along opportunity, chief? or-
I don't think you want to be on that.
That's true.
So, but I have a different question. That's important information. I have a different.
Which would be midnight of the 30, you know what I mean, or the 14, because some establishments are open after that. So there's that
So,
point of it as well.
is that enough time for you, this June 14th date, to get notice to each one of these establishments?
We're notifying them.
Yeah.
No, they're already, no, they're on record, they're notified already.
Well, but they should be, I mean, they're not notified of this action that we're
Yeah,
taking
we're
right
taking
now.
new action.
And so that,
Well, patty cake, what happened last year and it's not happening this year.
Well,
I mean,
we're
they
not
are,
I understand.
It's not new action, though. We're just
Sticking
sticking to what,
I mean, that's
Was
gonna, that's
voted
gonna
on.
generate the phone calls. They're gonna say, we were never told about this. I'm a
I'd
little,
personally rather get that phone call from them asking that question versus reaching out to them again.
Okay. So Becky,
I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot of work.
it's not your job to call them.
It's nonstop. There's a lot of time spent on this, a lot of emails, a lot of
I understand
communication.
that. I
They're,
get
they're
it.
already in arrears because they did not schedule it by May 15th.
That's my take on it.
Nick?
Right.
I feel Drew feels the same way.
Becky, when do you have to mail the licenses for them to receive it in time?
Well, I'm relying on the mail, so
So a week ahead of time?
Make Express.
easily. I mean, and we have 40 of them to issue. It's not like it's just issuing one, so it's time consuming. So that's why we put it on the first agenda in June, so we have the month to work on them.
And you issue them all at the same time, you can't just mail the ones that are,
We can,
but it's easier to, if you can do them all at the same time.
in the perfect world, yes. But, I mean, I get that, yes, if we have to do them in chunks, because Chief's doing background checks on the age, there's all that stuff too, so we're waiting to get pieces back that way too. So if we get them approved with the ones that have fire inspections, we can start rolling with them if they do get approved here tonight.
So the answer that I heard here to my question is that we don't need to give them notice about the action taken. And so why do we even have June 14th? It's just an artificial date, it means nothing. Because they don't know about the June 14th date, that's brand new to them. They just know that they need to get the inspection done before their license takes effect.
We need to know.
So, and I don't disagree with the 14th or
What's that, Randy?
21st,
We
but
need to notice them.
I think we need to notice them. I agree. I think we need to. If we're taking a different action here tonight, then I really think that they need to be notified.
But this action that we're taking.
And the last action that they had, of course, I don't know exactly what was sent out to them. If they're thinking of last year, they know they had 90 days. And that's probably all they're
The
thinking.
letters in your packet, the renewal letters there with the deadline.
Yeah.
I'm going to read the minutes again from last year. Next year, if applicants have not complied with the deadlines given to them, their liquor license will not be approved until in compliance. So we voted on that unanimously.
I agree.
It was in the minutes.
I agree.
So yes, we gave this big grace period. So, I just think it's time for them as business owners to recognize, the format and to comply.
Clearly, they don't think this issue is important as we believe that it is, right?
Well, they will if we hold firm.
I know that, I understand that, but that's why I think notice is really the prudent move here, to let them know we're serious, but we need to let them know that we're serious, in my opinion.
Well,
Okay,
if
so
you want to let them know that you're serious, tomorrow a notice goes out or calls get made that say you will not get your liquor license on July 1st unless you have at least your initial inspection completed by the end of the day on the 30th, right? I mean, that's, I think the dates that we're talking about, June 14th or whatever, we're really just trying to accommodate the failure to do what they've needed to do. So they're really just kind of fictitious dates. If you want to take a hard line, we send the message, and you do it through a phone call, and you do it through an email and a written notification that says you need to have this done. And that's hard, but at the same time, I mean, that's what the council had voted on previously.
Right.
And ultimately, that's how you get compliance. You just tell them you're not going to get your license.
Well, exactly, but we have to tell them.
Are
But
we
they've already
reaching
been
out to them
told.
all
We
three
don't
ways?
have
They've already been told that they have to have their appointment set up no later than May 15th.
It feels like we're doing way more for them than we sometimes do for our own residents. So I think a compromise is doing what you are proposing.
It's an idea. I think
But I would like us to shorten that time and not push it into July.
That's not a compromise, that's just what we did last year, that's just restating what we did last year.
No, because last year we went until the end of August. They had till the end of August.
But we said, next year, if you're not in compliance by, then you're in suspense. So we're just restating what we did last year.
It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
A different date.
So, Drew, you'll be unavailable for part of the
For the
last
next
week
month.
of June, is that correct?
I do have a conference, State Chiefs Conference, end of June, and I do plan on taking a few days of vacation this month, but,
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's doable, right?
Okay.
I mean, I'm
so-
willing to do this, to get this done.
So they really need to call you
Unfortunately,
this
they've had-
week in order to be able to get this done.
Now, the next 2 weeks, yeah.
I don't have a reason.
Well, my question, Mr. Mayor, is if we ask city staff, looks like everyone's looking at the clerk, at Becky, to make more contact with them. Well, what if the wrong person got the phone message, or they didn't get it recorded, or something
You
now?
didn't get the mail.
Yeah, the mail takes how long? Now suddenly someone's up in arms because I didn't hear about the new deadline. I mean, I don't know. I just threw out that idea of putting another date in place, but I didn't expect it to generate work for the clerk.
No, I agree with that, but I also want to get back to, and I don't know that we're bending over backwards to help these guys or going any extra mile right now, as much as I'm concerned about our police force. How many of these can you do in a day, chief?
Depends how much overtime you know.
Well, I mean, can you even do one a day?
It'd be tough.
So if their license is not renewed, then do they have to clear everything off of their shelves as well?
Yes.
And so, I mean,
It can't be anywhere on the premises.
Correct.
even if they close up until they get their license?
Correct.
Cannot be on the premises.
Yeah, your open bottles have to be dumped. Your closed bottles have to be moved off.
I would think they should probably get notice on something like this.
Well, they've already gotten notice, but yeah, I agree that, yes. I mean,
One part of
You know what, as bar owners, do they even know the ramifications? Do they have a clue that that's what
They get their notification, their publication 302 every year with their
What
package.
the remedy is?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the
Well,
business they're
clearly
in.
they're not
They
reading
have
their
to have
package.
little skin in
100%,
it.
but they get their, I send publication 302 every year.
Okay.
When it's part of the application, having the agent, the proper agent, proper phone number, proper email, I mean, that's also part of their responsibility.
Correct.
For them to say, well, you got the wrong address. Well, they're the ones that filled it out, so I'm,
Which I believe to do the background checks on the agents has to be the correct information. So,
Man, oh man.
you know, it should be going to the right place.
so Becky and Drew, what do you recommend that, I mean, should we just approve these contingent and then allow you to make the contacts and make the decisions? Or do you want us to add something to this?
I think you approve them contingent, as it's written, contingent upon successful completion of the fire inspection, right?
And then let the chips
and then
fall
let
where
the
they
chips fall where they lay. You know,
I agree with
I
that.
hate to be that way. I go to these places like you, Pete, everybody else does, right? I want to see them compliant, but I'm not holding hands. I don't have time or staff to do
I'm on
that.
board with Drew. I can't lie. When's enough? It's a lot of work.
No,
I can't express
You know
how
what,
much work it is.
I get that, Becky. It's a lot of work. What's more work? Is it more work to go in and clean out these bars one every day for the next month and then
Yes, but it's allowed.
here's what I would do. I would be sending out envelopes to these people instead of a long letter and stuff that okay, it's a license renewal time. I would have on the envelope license revocation. Right on the front of the envelope. They'll open that up and they'll pay close attention to it and not a long diatribe of what's going on. You are at risk of losing your license if you do not do this by this date, period. Call us. That's what I would do.
It can be done, yes.
That'll get their attention. It'll get anybody's attention that is receiving that mail. Oh, it's not just for him. It's like, whoa, we better get in touch with the owner or the manager or somebody immediately. So that's just it. I don't think these guys have understood the ramifications here. And they know that we weren't serious last year. We gave them 90 days.
And
And that's what I would do. I would have that on the envelope, license revocation, liquor license revocation.
I don't think it's a good idea to go back on what we said a year ago also, so.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but I just,
So I'm not disagreeing with you.
yeah.
and I think what you're saying is out of abundance of trying to meet them halfway, doing what we can, the people that are on vacation or don't read the mail, this is one last attempt to say, we're doing all we can as a city. You need to meet us halfway and get this envelope. And then in good conscience, we could say, look, there's nothing we'd feel like we didn't do to help you along this way. So I agree with the notification, and then the deadline's the deadline.
And I would have that on the envelope so that no matter who gets the mail, they'll see this is serious stuff and needs to get to the right person. Instead of just, oh, this is for Bob.
Yeah.
Maybe have Jeff deliver it.
I'll have a spare time.
That's-
You're making more work for Jeff.
All right, so how do we want to do the motion?
Well, we have a motion on the
There's a
floor
motion
right
out
now.
there.
But it hasn't been seconded.
So, all right, so
So I
do
can
we,
just-
Joy,
try.
it's balls in your court. What do you want to do?
Oh. I mean, I think our discussion has evolved. I can withdraw it. I mean, it hasn't had a second, so I don't know what the thinking is of the council at this
why
point.
don't you withdraw it?
I'll withdraw it.
I'll make the motion that we approve the licenses contingent on them completing everything, and that we ask the clerk to send out a written notice that is very clearly marked that their liquor license is at stake if they do not comply.
And so they have to be in compliance in by
By
First of
June
July.
30th, I mean,
30th, okay. All right.
well, in time, well, actually, in time for them to, for
The
the
mail.
license to be mailed.
So that would be, according to what you've shared, by June 24th.
I would say a week for sure.
So June 21st.
Well, if you want to avoid that post mailing, then we should be hand delivering it, unfortunately, by somebody. Because they can always say, well, I didn't get it in the mail, or maybe it didn't really actually come in the mail.
Or could it be picked up?
Or it could be sent registered
Certified
mail.
mail.
That's what I was going to say.
Do they get so their licenses go in the mail, right?
Yep.
Oh, they get their licenses, Randy.
Well,
So,
can we
I
make
mean,
it available for pickup here?
This is what Brent is suggesting also.
Yeah, definitely can do that, but how are we notifying them to come pick them up? I don't have emails for
But
everybody.
Drew
per
can
se.
tell them that when he gives them passes their inspection.
Well, they know. I mean, we're not dealing with inexperienced operators here.
Thank you. No,
We
you're
have
not.
experienced operators in this group that have not gotten their inspections, right? So,
Correct.
I mean, part of this is, I don't think we should probably set an artificial date based on the mail. They know that they need to be in compliance by the end of June. We should make their permits available for pickup here. If they pick up their permit on the 30th or whatever day it is, so that they can post it on July 1st, great. If they haven't made arrangements to pick up their permit and they don't have a valid permit posted on July 1st, well, then they have an issue and they're potentially subject to the pulling of all their liquor. And oh, by the way, I mean, it's not just gonna be our police department that's gonna be working on this, it's gonna be the state, and the alcohol bureau, and so it's gonna create some significant issues. So I don't, the business about the mail, the reality is, if I need a permit to operate, I should do what I need to do to pick up that permit and have it on the wall, so that on the date that I need it to be in force, it's there.
Well, I think the public should know that, we don't know who these 19 operators are.
That's a point I'd like to make also, Joyce. If I'm not mistaken, you've listed all 40 of the applicants here in our packet. Is that correct,
That's
Becky?
all that we've have applications for.
And
correct.
are all of them have complied with all the other things, the background checks and so on? Everything's pretty much set?
We're working through it. Some of them,
Okay.
I know some, a couple have owed debt still and whatnot, but
Okay.
they're, yeah.
So is that standard practice that we would vote an approval for all of them, even though check isn't done on everything, all
Yep.
the boxes?
This is how it's been done each year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, with the
My fingers
contingency.
here. With the contingencies, yes.
Yes. And,
I like to pick up the license here.
like you said, the people who are not complying right at this point have been afforded privacy on that. So, we could always take a different tactic in the future, that we only list the ones that are doing the fire inspection and they get a vote at the first June meeting. Others could get voted later. I don't know if it's always done together, but.
We can, this is the newspaper posting that is required to
Okay.
say, because all that newspaper, it has to be posted 15 days before they're issued.
So you list
And
all of
that
them.
is just because we have applications on file. Doesn't say they're approved, doesn't say, it's just saying, these applications are here at the clerk's office on file. And that's all that posting is.
So you need this in order to post that, and you need to post that or publish this as soon as possible.
It's posted, I'm 15, yeah.
Oh,
this
you've
is
already
ju-
posted
Yes,
it.
this is, we always bring it to council the first meeting of June to give staff time and give us time to finish up the background checks and get start processing them to get them ready to be completed, process the permits themselves.
But to Joy's point, we could absolutely include in this report in the future, those that have met the requirements.
Correct.
And those
Absolutely.
that have not yet met the requirements.
For sure.
And for the record, Becky and I are the only two that know who are not compliant, just so everybody knows that that's not public.
The rest of us will know July 1st.
Okay, well, July 1st is a Monday, so they'd have to pick it up by Friday, June 28th, if they're going to have it available for Monday morning.
And that is different. We have mailed them in the past. We have not had them come pick them up.
Correct.
But if they're not, we would only mail the ones that were in compliance, and the ones that were not
Would be held.
would be held, and they would have to come pick them up.
Yep. Right, that's what you, yeah.
Correct.
And I think, I know you want a short, concise letter that would go out. I think that maybe would be a point that would need to be explained in there. That if they haven't gotten everything in time, that they would need to be the ones responsible to
Sure.
come pick it up.
Yep. Can do that.
Are you good with the notice on the front of the envelope, Joyce?
Yes.
You want that as part of the motion?
Oh,
She did.
didn't I add
They're
that?
clearly marked, I don't know if you want to get.
It's not a revocation because
I
you're
just,
not revoking.
I just
but
said
it's-
clearly marked to leave it up to Becky how she wanted to,
License suspension.
so.
Just something to get their attention.
Yes.
So, but I want to make sure that that actually happens. I think that nothing will get their attention quicker than that.
Okay, so what do you want put on the envelope that you want me to add to the,
Whatever is legal. I would
Get
say
some hot pink labels.
Hot pink labels.
It will be clearly identified. We'll work on
Yes.
the language.
okay.
all right, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Mr. Mayor, though, I would like to see us revisit the process of this at some
Sure,
point. And if
okay.
we wanted to start in public safety, I'm more than happy.
All
Or
right,
finance.
well, you're the chair, so start it up.
All right.
Chief, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, annual renewal of liquor license applications.
I think we talked that out.
I think we have that
That's
taken
my
care
last
of.
motion.
Move to approve
Oh, did we?
contingent.
We
Yeah.
have to approve the,
Well, that was kind of built into the
That was my motion, was that
okay,
we would
all right,
Yeah.
sounds good.
approve them contingent on completing the requirements.
Okay. Resolution 16-24, all hazard mitigation plan for the city of Hudson.
Good evening again.
Chief?
Who wants to talk about hazard mitigation? So the city staff met with county emergency management and state emergency management to come up with this mitigation plan. It basically identifies certain areas that could be potential risks and how to potentially mitigate those issues throughout the city. And then there's basically a sub-plan that was adopted for the city to adopt, right? So this is basically, it's already attached, it's already part of the emergency operation plan that I update every couple of years. So this new one is just an updated one. This will run for 5 years until 2029, well, through 2029. And then I believe there's a resolution that they'd like you to adopt as well.
Do we suspend rules on this?
Anybody? No, we don't have to on a resolution.
I'll move to adopt resolution, where we're at, 16-24.
Second?
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Hudson Urban Service, or I'm sorry, Hudson Urban Sewer Service Area Plan.
Again, just a real quick recap. I know we've talked about this a few times in the past as an entire council, the need to update our sewer service area plan. The last plan was done in 1997, so it is woefully outdated. There is money that has come down through the state, through the regional planning commissions via grant program, to help communities update their plans. This application through West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission would be a joint application with us and the city of Menominee, whose plan is also very outdated. Obviously, we've got some growing pains and growing pressures, especially on our south border. The current plan delineates the south border of Tower Road. We talked about that when the folks from Windmill Hollow came in 2 meetings ago, I believe. So looking forward to working through that process. It's statutory. There are committees. It'll take at least a year to get through it. Assuming that we're successful recipients of some grant funding. So there'll be more details to share. We just need to get the Regional Planning Commission off to the races to meet that first, I think, June 30th deadline.
I'll move to approve the City of Hudson Sewer Service Area Planning Grant
Sec-
application.
Second it.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Ordinance 6-24, an ordinance imposing a moratorium on the issuance of new licenses under Section 141-7 of the city's Code of Ordinances to properties previously unlicensed by the city for short-term home rental.
This is one, I know Becky and I have talked about it in the past. We do, now that we've had the short-term rental ordinance in place for a little over 2 years, it was adopted in, or almost 4 years. It's 20, right?
2020, yeah.
2020, yeah.
Yeah.
Time flies. We get a lot of inquiries and a lot of challenges as we've kind of tried to wrestle with how to best process them internally. But we also get inquiries from realtors and the like about, hey, how close is the city to their quota for short-term rentals? And we don't have a quota in our current ordinance. Obviously, we do hear from residents that have concerns about the proliferation of short-term rentals. You hear more about it downtown, probably, I would say, more than anything. So, you know, staff was looking at it in terms of, okay, why don't we, as a council, the recommendation, kind of take a holistic approach at looking at the overall ordinance, where we can share some of the challenges that we're facing administratively, and the things that, you know, that we're seeing, you know, from our community. You know, I think Nick did a good job putting together the framework for this moratorium ordinance. It doesn't mean that we have to go a full year. You know, we could kind of go through our process of reviewing it, bringing on board anybody or experts that we might want to have take a look at it, and we could, you know, lift the moratorium earlier. But I think it's probably a good time. I know Becky talking about liquor licenses was a lot, but this one's kind of the same way. It's another license, right? And
It is.
And it can be an administrative burden. It can be challenges. We have, you know, a hotline, you know, we get complaints. It can be an issue with PD or fire, again, fire department does inspections on short-term rentals too. Or we get a complaint and we have to go through the code compliance officer or something like that.
Or there's one unlicensed that we don't know about.
Or there's ones that we might not know about that our software can't detect, or we can't get a hold of them. So there's just a lot that goes into it. And I think this warrants a lot, you know, more discussion now that we've kind of been around it for a few years now. And it's not going away. It's, if anything, it's getting more and more pervasive, so.
Yeah. And so the existing license, there'd be no implications for them? Everything would stay normal?
Yep, if you've already had a previously licensed one, we'll continue to, you know, have them be licensed. It'd be all new.
There is a little caveat there, though. There is some that got a letter stating just within the last month. Within the last month, letters saying, hey, you're not licensed. I think there was 2 properties from that Granicus caught that sent them and said, hey, you're not licensed. They had, I don't know what it is, 30 or 45 days to get in. So I don't know if that's.
It's a pending application at that point.
I haven't seen nothing at this point, so
Okay.
I'm not, but just, it's out there, so you know that.
So if we move forward with this, the ones where that's pending, we might extend like a 30-day grace period for them to get a license.
Or
in.
being we don't have the application.
Okay.
I-
we
Talking
don't
about
even
grace
have the
periods again.
application. Okay, perfect.
But this is like hitting pause, letting us step back and build a more robust rule book, basically, and then present it when we're more ready to issue licenses properly. Okay.
Yeah, well, not even properly, but what a moratorium does is it allows just to press pause, right? You've had this ordinance in place for 3 or 4 years. You've got the various conditions in the ordinance, the things that you look at. For short-term rentals, they have to be licensed by both the county and by the city.
Say have a rooming house, yep.
Yep, yeah, and so we have the things that we look at in our ordinance. We have 4 years of experience in looking at those various different areas, and part of this is, do we have the right areas that we look at when an application is made? Do we have the right considerations? Are there things that we should add? Are there things that we should take away? Are there things that, ultimately don't matter that we thought mattered back in 2020? Or are there things that we haven't thought about that now we should add? So it's really just pressing pause on issuing permits. Again, these permits are similar to what we just talked about. They're a privilege, not a right. So you really don't have to have a moratorium because you could just say no to every application that comes in. But a moratorium of this type is really just a formal way of saying, we're going to take some time to study it. We'll come back with a memorandum or a recommendation, and then we'll update the ordinance, or we'll take the position that the ordinance is drafted the way we like it, and things will move on at the conclusion of the moratorium.
We have a motion?
Do we need to suspend the rules since this is an ordinance?
No.
So I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Is there a second?
I seconded it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Motion and second to suspend the rules, roll call?
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion is approved, rules are suspended.
Move to adopt an ordinance 6-24, an ordinance imposing a moratorium on the issuance of new licenses under section 141-7 of the city code, ordinance to properties previously unlicensed by the city for short-term rental.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. All right, I would like to talk a little bit about the library. Some of you, most of you maybe, all know about a study that was done. The Library Foundation had hired consultants, the same consultants that we worked with 5-6 years ago when they helped us guide us through the strategic plan that put us on good footing for where we're at right now administratively. So they have been hired, they've done their work. They're going to be releasing a report will be on the 18th, Shelley? June 18th at our next library board meeting, which is going to be held at the fire station. And so there are a number of options that are being discussed. There were over 900 respondents to the survey that went out. And just to put that into perspective, Mike, do you remember how many responses we got?
Off the top of my head.
Like 300 or?
It was more than that, different interactions, but not the
Completely
survey.
different for comprehensive plans. I think it's significantly more though.
It is
isn't
more.
Yeah. And with a much shorter window in which to complete the survey. So there are a lot of opinions out there, a lot of responses on what people think the library should look like going forward. We know that the police department's going to be moving out at some point, probably March, April-ish of next year. And one of the proposals then is to take over the police side of that building for an expansion of library resources. But there are some other options that are going to be discussed that night, and so it may interest you to be there. And certainly you'll be getting a copy of the report, but it will be released that night.
What time on the 18th?
7 o'clock, yeah, our normal board meeting time. All right. Miss anything? No. Anybody else?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.